For sinister true horror stories exposed, spine-chilling tales of the haunted and cursed revealed. Jenna sat alone in her living room, tension knotting the air like thick fog. The hum of the city was a distant memory. Her suburb was supposed to be the very picture of safety, children playing, neighbors waving, a predictable rhythm of mundane bliss. But as the shadows lengthened one stormy night, reality peeled back its veneer. The laughter from her children's rooms twisted into something dark, something wrong. They shared too much. It danced through the air like a malevolent whisper, chilling her to the bone. She shook it off, shaking her head, telling herself it was just the wind, but deep down, she felt the weight of something ancient, something sinister. Every night, as Jenna tucked in her 7-year-old son Ethan and 5-year-old Lily, chilling echoes began weaving their way through the narrow hallways. At first, it was just a creak, a rustle, a trick of her weary mind. But soon, it transformed into faint whispers, swarming her like voracious bees. She pressed her hands to her ears, trying to drown them out, but nothing worked. With every passing night, the shadows whispered louder. Before she could fight the fear, her world imploded. On one of the darkest nights yet, a storm raged outside, lightning illuminating her home. Then the children's sweet giggles morphed into chilling harmonies, echoing through the rooms. Heart pounding, eyes wide, Jenna rushed down the hallway, trembling hands reaching for the doorknob. Ethan? Lily? Silence greeted her. The stillness felt heavy, smothering. Shadows danced just beyond her sight, a tantalizing hint of horror that left her shivering. The house felt alive, maliciously alive, desperate to escape paranoia. Jenna turned to the internet, immersing herself in her home's past. Her eyes widened as a story unfolded. Margaret, the previous occupant, had vanished without a trace. All she had left behind was an air of disquiet, amplified by whispers of intrigue surrounding the town's mayor. Could a ghost be the reason for the whispers? Were the townsfolk hiding something even worse? What started as just a fear for her children morphed into gripping terror as a chilling realization swept over her. The suburb she adored was dark and haunted. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the panic escalated, Jenna's children began exhibiting strange behavior. Ethan would sit up in bed, muttering to shadows, while Lily wandered the halls, eyes glazed and distant. Chilling laughter echoed through the walls. Jenna raced to the local authorities, desperate for support. But her fears were dismissed. Just a tired mother, they said. The very thought made her heart pound harder. She felt utterly alone. With courage swelling inside her, Jenna resolved to confront whatever darkness lurked in her home. Following hunches, she delved deeper into her neighbors' lives. But the faces she once smiled at had hidden layers of secrecy, concealing their villainy behind friendly masks. The whispers grew even stronger now, thickening the air, pushing her closer to a truth she dreaded to uncover. In the depths of night, the front door creaked open, the wind howling like a vengeful spirit. Jenna stood in her living room, pulse racing. The air felt heavy, charged. And then the whispers crescendoed, convulsing through her. Amidst the chaos, one chilling phrase penetrated her mind: "They see you and they want your children." Terrified and bewildered, Jenna faced the gathering storm, conjuring her last ounce of strength, sharpening her wits. Against the very people she thought were her allies. Was this truly a haunting, or did the darkness run deeper? The next night, Jenna lay wide awake, unable to shake the lingering words that clawed at her mind. They see you and they want your children. The phrase echoed violently, a drumbeat against her skull. Every creak of the house felt like an oncoming storm, each whisper a portent of doom that made her heart race like a trapped animal. She pulled the covers tighter, glancing at the dark hallway, shadows flowing like liquid. Ethan's mutterings had become more frequent, more erratic. Just before dawn, she found him curled on the floor, clutching an empty cereal box, staring into the corner of his room, a gleam in his eyes she had never seen before. "They like my drawings, Mom," he had said with a smile that made her skin crawl. "I'll show them more." "Ethan, come here," she commanded, voice trembling. But he just giggled and continued to scribble, as though entranced by invisible hands. Morning traipsed brightly through the windows, painting the walls in warm tones, yet gloom hung like specters in the corners. Desperate for clarity, Jenna returned to her computer, typing frantically about the previous inhabitants of her home. Margaret's story deepened a young mother who had loved to paint landscapes but whose dreams had turned to nightmares. Retouched photos revealed flickers of shadow in the edges, faces too distorted to recognize. Jenna felt the chill creep back. Was this what had become of her? Crumbling into darkness because of the very thing she feared. But as she scrolled through old newspaper clippings, the words leapt out at her, "missing woman." And beneath that, a sentence twisted her stomach, "last seen with unnamed children." Fully awakened dread clawed at her throat. Were her kids in danger? The sun dipped below the horizon, dragging along the warmth of day. As the shadows reclaimed their insidious grip, Jenna steeled herself. She prepared for the confrontation that awaited her. Ethan, now too quiet, barely reacted as she called them for dinner. Lily, staring blankly at her plate, would occasionally sing fragments of children's songs, eerie and off-key, like a broken record digging into her brain. After dinner, Jenna gathered her resolve, dragging her children into the living room, the air thickening around them. "We need to talk," she said, trying to inject confidence into her tone. "I see them too, Mommy," Lily whispered, eyes wide and unfocused, fixating on something at the edge of the room. "Who, honey?" Jenna croaked, heart in her throat. "They're playing in the dark, looking for their friend." Ethan's voice piped up next, "They want to be with me, Mom. They say it's fun." The walls throbbed, reverberating with a sinister energy. In that moment, the house creaked louder, like it was shifting, stretching with a hungry breath. Jenna's spine shivered. "No, you can't play with them," she shouted, desperation clawing her throat. With a sudden wildness, the lights flickered, plunging them into shadow as laughter childish, taunting echoed. Jenna reached for her kids, dragging them close, but they resisted, eyes glazed over. Then, as if summoned by their pleas, shadows twisted grotesquely, forming shapes that lurked just beyond her vision. "They want you to share," a voice sighed, soft yet charged with malice. "Share what?" Jenna whispered, glancing at her children, now staring blankly ahead. Lily spoke again, everything at that moment. The door burst open, slamming against the wall. The wind howled, swirling into the room, and Jenna felt this dark foreboding press closer. Ethereal shapes surrounded her children now, beckoning, their whispers rising to a howl of despair. In that breathless moment, all confidence shattered. "No!" Jenna screamed, but fear suffocated her will. What did they want? What would they take next? Now, standing on the precipice of unfathomable horror, Jenna felt her hope slip away. Was every friendly face in the neighborhood part of this awful design? As the shadows loomed larger, the door slammed shut behind her, trapping her with the whispers and darkness that wanted her family. Desperation surged through her veins. She had to act. But as she scanned the room, every corner pulsed with dread, and the hunt had already begun. What would Jenna sacrifice to save her children from the depths of this lurking evil? Jenna's heart thudded painfully in her chest, each beat echoing the panic that clawed its way up her throat. Shadows twisted into grotesque forms around Ethan and Lily, their whispers curling like smoke around her children. "They want you, Jenna." A faint, almost melodic voice drifted into her ears, sending shivers racing down her spine. "No. Get away from them!" she screamed, trying to lunge forward. Her limbs felt like lead, unresponsive in the thick, suffocating air. The shapes swayed, flickering with a darkness so deep it felt like the midnight sky had come alive, drunken on despair and longing. Lily's eyes glazed over deeper, the light dimming in them as she whispered, "Mommy, they're showing me all the fun." The innocence of her tone twisted Jenna's gut. This wasn't fun. This was a nightmare unfolding, drenching them in terror. With every ounce of strength, Jenna forced herself forward. "Ethan, come to me," she shouted, but he only giggled at the shadows, ready to embrace whatever darkness lay before him. It felt unreal, a dream from which she could not wake. The laughter grew louder, more boisterous. It filled the room, drowning out her panicked heartbeat. "Join us, Jenna. Share your love." The voices chanted in unison, a chorus of temptation and dread. "Shut up," she cried, hands trembling as they pulled at her hair, the presence of the shadows pressing in tighter. "Leave my family alone." In that moment of desperation, she felt a surge of heat within her, a desperate will to fight. She grabbed at the remnants of her fading hope, envisioning herself yanking her children back from the precipice. "You don't own them. They're mine." The declaration rang with authority she barely felt. For a split second, the shadows recoiled, hesitation rippling through the room. The tight spirals of darkness faded slightly, giving her a moment to breathe. "Ethan. Lily. Come." She pleaded, voice raw with urgency. "I love you. I want you home." Time hung suspended as she reached for them, fingers grasping their small, trembling hands. A flicker of warmth surged through her, temporarily piercing the cold that surrounded them. But the shadows writhed again, sensing their slipping grip. "You cannot hold them. We will take them," they chorused with malice. Tendrils reached out, grasping for Jenna, wrapping around her wrists, pulling her back. "No!" she screamed, yanking her hands free as if breaking a spell. She grasped Lily and Ethan, pulling them toward her with every ounce of her remaining strength. "Mommy!" they cried in unison, but the connection to the shadows seemed to pulse through them, their smiles still glazed and entranced. The room was spinning now, and Jenna felt herself caught in the storm of voices, chaotic laughter echoing in her ears like a mocking refrain. "They belong to us. Share your love or face the consequences." The air crackled, the shadows shifting darker, hungry. She grabbed her children close, hiding their faces in her chest, trying to shield them from the encroaching terror. And just when Jenna thought they would be swallowed whole, a loud crash echoed through the house, thunderous and deafening. The lights flickered back on, illuminating their surroundings, and with it came a brief moment of clarity, but the shadows did not retreat, they seemed to grow angrier, swirling in a tempest. The children slipped from her grasp for just a second, giggling as if hearing a joke she didn't "Mommy, we want to stay," they echoed, almost in a sing-song manner. Jenna's heart dropped, dread pouring through her veins. As the chaos erupted around them, Jenna had only one desperate thought in her mind: what was she willing to sacrifice to keep them safe? And just then, from the corner of her eye, an ethereal figure emerged, its face obscured but its intent clear. In that moment of horror, Jenna realized she wasn't alone in the struggle. But was there hope, or did the figure harbor the same dark desires? A chilling question danced in the air, lingering like smoke. Who was friend, who was foe? And as the shadows closed in, the haunting laughter echoed louder, leaving Jenna to wonder what had she truly unleashed. Jenna's breath came in short gasps, her chest tight with fear. The crashing flood of noise, the depth of the shadows, all of it closed in on her. With the ethereal figure hanging back, cloaked in a shroud of uncertainty, she felt torn between fleeing and clenching tighter to her children. "Lily! Ethan!" she shouted again, desperation rippling through her voice. They turned toward her, but their faces were puzzlingly calm, as though the shadows had replaced their spirited souls with shadows of their own. "Mommy, they're so nice." Ethan's words dripped like honey, but there was an edge that made her blood run cold. "No!" Jenna yelled, a surge of defiance coursing through her. She felt the shadows thrum against her, a horrible chorus of voices rising, promising sweet solace in exchange for her children. Just beyond them, the figure shifted, its form momentarily flickering like an old movie reel, a glimpse of a face that twisted her stomach into knots. "Let them go," she pleaded, the fabric of her resolve fraying. Suddenly, the figure took a step forward, the shadows recoiling slightly as if in deference. "Not all darkness is evil, Jenna," it uttered, voice smooth yet unsettling, like a silken thread weaving through her heart. "You must choose. The shadows could give your children what you cannot. What do you want?" She shot back, incredulity mixing with fear. "To free them, to show them a world beyond your understanding," it responded, voice strangely soothing. Hope tinged with apprehension wrapped around her like a noose. Jenna felt the pull of temptation wash over her. In a world where struggles felt insurmountable, could there really be an escape from the endless chaos? The shadows writhed, pounding against her protectively, and her heart raced. "Mommy, please," Lily chimed, her voice lilting but indistinct. "It'll be so much fun," the words echoed, hanging like damp mist in the air. "No," Jenna shouted again, panic coursing through her veins. "You're not playing with shadows." She could see darkness coiling around their small bodies, a threat masked as innocence. As she struggled against the oppressive weight of the shadows, the figure stepped closer, mere inches away now, the desperation palpable. "This is not just a choice for you, but a chance for them. They will find happiness in what I can offer. Will you deny them?" Sweat trickled down her brow as Jenna's mind spiraled. She thought of her whispered stories at night, tucking them in when the world felt too big. She couldn't lose them to whatever promise these shadows dangled. "Stay away from my children," she yelled, voice cracking. But behind her, the walls warped. The very space of their home twisted, shuddering as if alive with the shadow's hunger. The whispers transformed, becoming a muddled chant of mania, their once melodic tones turning savage. Jenna squeezed her children tight, a fortress of flesh against the sickening allure. Yet, it felt futile. Lily and Ethan leaned closer to the lurking shapes, their little hands reaching toward the abyss. Then, in the heart of her panic, the figure glimmered with a hint of light, a stark contrast to the consuming darkness. "You know what you must do," it murmured, voice almost like a promise. The shadows began to form a giant maw behind them, eager to pull her children away. "Fight it!" she screamed, tears spilling over. "Fight them! Fight for me!" But even as she cried, she feared their will had long been broken. "Mommy, we want to stay," they sang. In that moment, Jenna realized that desperation wasn't the most powerful force. It was desperation mixed with love, like a torch in the suffocating dark. She took a deep breath, igniting every ounce of resolve she felt, and whispered to the very essence of her being, "I will not let you go." The shadows hissed, recoiling in violent spasms, but the figure remained, observing with an intensity that chilled her. And as the darkness surged forward in retaliation, a voice spoke in Jenna's mind, a dark whisper she couldn't ignore. "The offer still stands. What would she have to sacrifice to save her children from the insatiable shadows? And would they still be her children if she accepted?" Jenna's heart pounded as the shadows quaked and writhed, echoing her turmoil. She clutched Lily and Ethan tighter, feeling their small bodies tremble against the chaos surrounding them. "I'm not letting you go," she repeated, her voice barely above a whisper now, resolute yet afraid. The figure chuckled softly, a sound that twisted in her gut like a knife. "You misunderstand, Jenna. Their true selves are barely concealed, trapped within the grasp of mundane reality. They can be free, they can thrive. You, on the other hand, you can't protect them forever." In that moment, the shadows flared with a menacing intensity, swirling like a storm. The faces of her children, once so innocent, flickered with strange hues, as if the darkness was painting them anew. Jenna recoiled. "No!" she barked. "This isn't who you are." She felt like a tree in a hurricane, roots digging deep to resist the violent winds. Yet doubt gnawed at her, whispering lies. What if hiding them was the true nightmare? What if the darkness could indeed offer them a brighter existence? "Mommy, we want to play," Ethan's voice came again, sweet and sticky like syrup, laced with an enchanting melody. He took a half-step forward, eager and unwittingly compliant, still standing by the shadows that beckoned. His eyes sparkled with a sheen of unearthly allure. "Don't listen!" Jenna screamed, a pulse of primal fear pushing her voice into a frantic pitch. "You're not like them. Remember our stories? Remember our laughs?" In an instant, the shadows shifted, shrinking back momentarily, as if the mention of their shared memories carried force. But they quickly ensnared the moment, tightening their grip on the children. She could feel her resolve fraying like the tattered cloak of the figure. Mommy Lily's voice was softer now. "We love you," but the phrase hung in the air, heavy with meaning, as if she was somehow the barrier to their happiness. The thought churned her stomach. "Please," she breathed, desperation coiling tighter around her heart. Don't think for a second that your happiness could lie in shadows." But the figure laughed, a sharp, cutting sound that echoed through the room. "What if darkness is just another path to enlightenment?" It said. "What if joy lies beyond your light? They can have it all. They can be more than you can imagine." Jenna's mind raced, images of her children at play, laughter ringing clear as day, crashed against visions of them in the embrace of darkness smiling, yes, but hollow. "Look!" The figure gestured, and the shadows pulsed, molding into images of grandeur a glittering landscape of unbound happiness and laughter where her children frolicked free and exalted. This could be their reality. "What do I have to do?" Jenna whispered, fear cutting her voice. Each word hung there like a suspended moment in time, threatening to fracture. "Just one small thing," the figure trailed off. "What?" She snapped, feeling panic rise like bile, but instead of answering, it merely waved its hand, and the shadows enveloped her children tightly, tugging at them like errant wisps of smoke. "Feel the pull, Jenna. Don't fight it. Together, you can join them, or remain in your paltry world of worry." In that tangled moment, Jenna noticed something flicker in Ethan's eyes, a flash of confusion, a hint of recognition. He was fighting back. Together, they could pull him through. "Ethan, Lily. Remember our secrets. The stars, our dreams." She cried desperately. "Don't let go of who you are." As if awakened from a trance, Ethan hesitated, glancing back. But the shadows snarled, and Jenna could see the gleam of their sheer malevolence. Every instinct screamed at her to act, to lash out. Then, with a guttural roar, the darkness shot forth. Shadows clawed through the air, rushing toward her, intent on consuming all hope. "Mommy!" Lily yelled, reaching out. The distance between them stretched unbearably, the figure laughed, reverberating through the walls. "It's time to decide it, Jenna. Their lives for your freedom." As Jenna stood frozen at the precipice of despair, the choice loomed before her like a knife's edge. What miracle could tear them from this abyss? What would she risk to reclaim her children? And what had she truly offered to grasp at salvation? With the shadows surging, the whispers of the abyss grew louder, each syllable a dark promise drawing her closer to the point of no return. What darkness would Jenna have to confront to save her children? And was there still a light left for them to find? Jenna's breath quickened as the shadows surged forward, a tide of darkness eager to claim her children. She screamed their names, but her voice seemed lost in the swirling chaos, drowned beneath the malicious laughter. "Mommy!" Ethan's wail pierced through the noise, filled with genuine fear. In that heartbeat, Jenna knew she had to act. Fear was a solid weight in her chest, but if she let it paralyze her, she would lose them. She surged forward, shoving aside the chilling dread that engulfed her. Panic clawed at her skin as she lunged toward her children. They were just within grasp, but the shadows twisted, snatching them deeper into obscurity. She could feel them slipping away, fading like echoes in the night. Everything around her spun, the walls warped, the light flickered, and the monstrous figure grinned wider, absorbing every ounce of her panic. "Join them, it beckoned, a world of bliss awaits. No more pain, only joy. Shut up. Jenna yelled, her voice cracking with desperation. You don't know love. The shadows recoiled slightly, as if her words struck a nerve. She seized the moment, focusing on the warmth of her children, the feel of their small hands in hers, their laughter under bright starlit skies. These reminders were her weapons. Remember when we built that fort? Jenna held on to the image fiercely. Remember how we laughed with the fireflies? Lily, Ethan, I love you. Her heart squeezed tight as she cried out their names again, hoping to tether them to the light, to the real world. The shadows hesitated, undulating as if debating her words. Jenna took advantage, stepping closer, feeling the cool air prick her skin. You are not meant to play in the dark. You belong in the light with me. A flicker of clarity appeared in Ethan's eyes, allowing light to pierce through the murk. Mommy? He whispered, his small face twisted in fear and confusion. Yes. I'm here. I love you. Fight it. She felt the air around her crackle with tension, the figure's expression shifting from amusement to rage, but the figure wasn't done. It extended an impossibly long finger toward Jenna, as darkness coiled around it. You think love can save them? You don't understand, this is their destiny. No. Jenna screamed, digging her heels into the ground. Her entire being straining against the oppressive weight of shadows. They have a destiny. A life filled with light, laughter, and love. Suddenly, an ear-splitting roar resonated through the room, shaking the very foundations. The shadows writhed, bouncing between rage and fear, losing some of their grip on Ethan and Lily as if Jenna's fierce denial was burning through their facade. Mommy! They cried, the sound a thin thread of hope that wound around Jenna's heart, but the grasp of darkness tightened once more, feeling the shifting power. Shadows clawed at Jenna's back, their icy fingers sinking into her skin. She gasped, pain cutting through her. A terror gripped her insides, threatening to consume her. Do you want to save them? The figure hissed, leaning closer. Then you must let go. Surrender yourself and they will be returned. They can have everything, fun, freedom, a life without constraints. No. Jenna panted, summoning every ounce of strength. They are mine to protect. I won't give in. As the shadows howled, the children's faces shimmered in and out of existence, clearly battling against the darkness. This was more than a fight for their lives, it was a battle for their very souls. Jenna strained against the shadows, a lone bastion of defiance that in that moment, she realized, the shadows wanted her despair. They feasted on fear. She steeled her resolve, drawing upon every good moment, every dream she'd nurtured for her children. As she did, the shadows hissed, spitting back in distaste. Just then, the figure stopped, eyes narrowing. You think you can prevail? The light may burn, but this darkness it does not easily die. With a final, despairing scream, Jenna clutched her children's images, fury igniting within her as she dove deeper into the darkness. She wasn't leaving this fight without her kids. What would she uncover in this wretched world of shadows? What cost would she pay to wrest her children from the brink? And would she find the strength for the ultimate confrontation? Jenna plunged headfirst into the veil of shadows, the heavy air threatening to suffocate her. She felt herself being dragged, as if futilely swimming against an unseen current pulling her under. The choking darkness closed in, a swirling vortex of despair that whispered her deepest fears. Mommy! The voice was faint, a fragile sound struggling to break free. She knew it was Ethan, but it felt a world away, his image wavering like a candle flame in the wind. Panic clawed at her throat, threatening to silence her. Ethan! She shouted, the desperation leaking into her voice as she fought through the oppressive gloom. Each step forward felt like a mountainous task, the shadows coiling around her legs, urging her to stay still. The monstrous figure loomed behind her, its presence a palpable weight that pushed against her will. Come back, it taunted, the words slithering from its lips like oily tendrils. Join them. You'll find peace here. No. Jenna bellowed, clenching her fists until her nails dug into her palms. Fire surged within her, igniting her resolve. You don't understand what peace means. It's not in darkness, it's in their laughter, their warmth. The shadows twisted, revealing fragmented images of her children, their faces contorted with fear. Lily clutched a frayed teddy bear, eyes wide and glistening with tears. Mommy, please, she begged, the sound a knife in Jenna's heart. Hold on. I'm coming. Jenna shouted, surging forward against the tide of terror. The floor beneath her transformed into a hellish landscape, pulsing and shifting, trying to throw her off balance. Each frantic step sent jolts of fear through her body. The shadows hissed, whispering twisted promises of freedom and love, trying to worm their way into her mind. She could almost see the endless expanse of joy they offered, but it was laced with the nagging chill of desolation. What would they really lose? Her breath was ragged, echoing in the silence, underscoring the strange tension hanging in the air. The more she battled against the shadows, the more she felt them shift. It was a dance of despair, and at every turn, Jenna felt the fragment of hope she clung to ebb away. Let me show you, the figure hissed, stepping forward. It stretched a hand, impossibly long and gnarled, each finger adorned with flickering dark light. The mere sight of it sent waves of nausea through Jenna. What awaits you beyond this struggle? With a shaking breath, she focused on the laughter, the tiny fingers that once gripped hers. You can't take them. You cannot take my joy. The shadows surged violently, swirling like a tornado of darkness, driven by her fierce defiance. The figure's grin wavered, anger simmering below its surface. You think mere memories can save you? They're nothing. Your children belong here, forever free of your constraints. Never. Jenna screamed, feeling the ground tremble beneath her. She pumped her arms, willing every ounce of her energy into her fight. Pain raced through her, but she pushed through, each moment fueled by her love for her children. And then there came a sickening crash, a shattering sound that fractured the shadows around her. Light burst through the cracks, fragile and radiant. It poured in like a waterfall, illuminating the darkness and revealing the true nature of the figure. Its form pulsed, wavering as if losing shape, like a candle flickering against the wind. Impossible, it spat, fear flickering in its beady eyes. Taking advantage of this moment, Jenna took another step closer to her children. You are not their end. She yelled, the light around her growing stronger, pushing the darkness back inch by inch. Would this be enough to break its hold? But just as hope surged, the winds changed. The shadows howled in fury, coiling tighter around Jenna, dragging her back into the abyss. You think light will conquer darkness? The figure sneered, a sinister challenge lacing its voice. As Jenna struggled, the light began dimming, swallowed by the insatiable shadows. She could feel herself weakening, the tether already fraying. Mommy! The cries of Ethan and Lily echoed within her, reverberating against her fading will. In that frantic moment, Jenna made a choice, drawing a deep breath. I won't abandon you. The clash of darkness and light reached a fevered peak, terror curling tight in Jenna's gut. Would she reach her children before the shadows snuffed out the last flicker of hope? What awaited her in that all-consuming dark? And could love truly shine bright enough to pierce through the coming night? Jenna's heart thundered in her chest as the shadows shrieked around her, an anguished cacophony that threatened to drown her spirit. She was torn between two worlds, one that pulsed with the love for her children and another that cradled her in suffocating despair. The monstrous figure loomed closer, stretching its gnarled hand, darkness pooling at its fingers as though it was trying to siphon the remnants of her strength. Join me, Jenna, it taunted, its voice dripping with malice. The temperature dropped, filling the air with an icy terror. Memories flashed through her mind, scenes of laughter and joy weaving together with piercing images of her children lost in the grips of the shadows. She fought against the grip of despair, willing herself forward, toward the light that began flickering again against the suppressing tide, but as she approached, the ground crumbled beneath her feet, revealing an abyssal depth suffused with whispers that dripped with venom. "You don't know what you're fighting for." The figure's hiss pierced through her resolve, planting a seed of doubt in her mind. "You could stay here, be happy forever." "Happy?" Jenna screamed, her voice bold against the darkness, but her heart quivered. She took a mental step back. Was there any truth in its words? "You're lying. Happiness is fleeting here, it's a trap. I won't fall for it." With newfound vigor, Jenna lunged toward the glimmers of light, but the shadows retaliated with fury. They wrapped around her limbs, their tendrils like icy vice grips holding her back. Each movement was met with a counterattack, the weight of despair and fear pulling her down, deeper and deeper. The figure laughed, a guttural sound that echoed through the void. "Just accept it, Jenna. You'll never reach them." She gritted her teeth, ignoring the shadow's tight grasp. The voices of her children rose above the darkness, echoing like a siren's call, urging her onward. Their tiny faces, vibrant with life and love, flashed in her mind. She clenched her eyes shut, her body trembling. "Ethan, Lily. I'm coming." In that moment, a surge of determination flowed through her veins. Jenna pushed against the claustrophobic darkness, and with each step, she pulled strength from the visions of her children. The shadows around her began to writhe and squirm, losing their strength as her love fought back. "No more. I will not be a part of this." She felt warmth creeping back into her soul, golden and bright, carving paths through the blackness. With a scream of defiance, she thrust out her arms, channeling all of her energy into the light. A blinding pulse erupted from her, rippling outward like a shockwave. The illusory landscape around her began to fracture. Cries of agony erupted from the figure, distorted and frenzied. "You dare defy me?" The shadows faltered, shrinking as Jenna stepped forward. She could feel the distance between her and her children dwindling, the darkness breaking apart like shards of glass under the weight of her resolve. But even as the light pushed hard against the shadows, Jenna sensed a lurking dread beneath it. Just as victory seemed within reach, a cold whisper slithered into her ear. This isn't over. Jenna froze, the unsettling sensation coiling around her neck. The shadow figure had retreated slightly, but the darkness still saturated the air. Ambivalence surged inside her, battling her hope. Could she maintain this light? What if it faltered? What if she lost everything? Yanking her gaze to the swirling shadows, she ventured onward. "I have to believe. I must." But as she neared her children's cries, something in the corner of her eye caught her attention, another figure emerging from the swirling darkness. Its features were cloaked, but the laughter, it sounded so much like her children. It was a chilling juxtaposition, pulling her focus at the last moment. Was it them? Or a cruel imitation, twisting her worst fears into reality? Her heart raced and dread filled her lungs like lead. The question hung in the air, oppressive. Would this new figure damper the flicker of hope she held? Or would light find a way to push through the darkness? Jenna steadied her breath, her pulse quickening as the second figure shifted slightly, revealing patches of shadow that flickered like distant memories. The laughter echoed, both sweet and sinister, tugging at the strings of her heart. "Ethan. Lily." She called, her voice wavering as she struggled to tear her gaze away from their spectral form. The figure morphed, twisting with a sort of cruel grace. It flickered, ever so slightly, as if light and darkness were fighting for control over it. "Mommy," it cooed, the sound wrapping around her like a warm blanket. "We've missed you." Tears stung Jenna's eyes, a blend of hope and despair clawing at her heart. "No. This is a trick." She shook her head violently, pushing against the grip of passing shadows that gnawed at her ankles. The figure didn't relent, its eyes sparkling like stars against the vastness of nothingness. "Join us, Mommy. We can be together, forever. Here, we're happy," it insisted, its voice like honey dipped in dread, but to her, those words were poison. Images of playground swings, school recitals, and bedtime stories flashed in her mind. This isn't real. You're not them. The shadows slithered closer, tightening like a noose around her chest, suffocating her hopes. Yet, Jenna found herself drawn toward their laughter. Love battled against her instinct to fight back, a morbid tug-of-war stretching her resolve. Mommy, it stepped closer, features almost recognizable but tinged with a grotesque mockery. The laughter, once her children's pleasant giggles, twisted into mocking echoes that sang of despair. Join us, Jenna. This is where you belong. Let go of the pain. Doubt seeped into her bones, cold and unyielding. I could stay. I could finally be with them again. An icy realization clutched her heart. What if this was her chance? What if the thought shimmered, enticing? As if sensing her hesitation, the cloaked figure inched forward, shadows swirling around it like hungry serpents. You see. They're waiting for you. They love you. Wouldn't you rather be happy? The laughter crescendoed, filling the air with an unbearable weight. Jenna flinched, battling the warmth that urged her to submit. Lies. She screamed, a defiant cry against the suffocating shadow. You will never take me. Gathering the remnants of her strength, she pushed through the pain, forcing herself toward the light that still shimmered in the distance. The figure shrieked, morphing with rage as shadows lashed out, slicing through the air. The laughter turned to howls of fury, each cry like ice piercing through her resolve. She stumbled, nearly losing her footing, but the thought of Ethan and Lily propelled her forward. I must reach them. Suddenly, from behind her, the shadows swelled with renewed fury, a wave of darkness crashing toward her like a tidal wave. You cannot escape. Jenna felt the walls of the abyss closing in, sharp tendrils grasping at her legs, pulling her back into the depths. The laughter of the figure echoed like shattered glass, a haunting reminder of something that would never be again. With a final burst of strength, Jenna unleashed all her love, a bright beam illuminating her surroundings. But the shadows retaliated, swirling into a vortex around her, graphics of someone she yearned and feared flooding her mind. And then everything went black, eyes wide in panic, she felt a familiar warmth envelop her, confusion overtaking her senses as she blinked into the void. Ethan. Lily. The silence deafened, and dread settled in her gut. What if they were right? What if the shadows had won? The echoes of doubt lingered in the darkness, whispering twisted lies. You're trapped forever just like us. In that moment, a flicker of light broke through, pulling at the edges of her despair. Was it real this time? Or just another cruel trick? With hope ignited and dread lurking, Jenna took a hesitant step toward the light. Hungry shadows writhed, inching closer, threatening to snuff out her tiny spark. But what awaited her in that radiance, or was it just another abyss? The depth of her resolve would be tested again. The darkness pressed in, a suffocating weight that throbbed with unseen menace. Jenna felt herself spiral deeper into the void, but a single spark ignited hope within her. I will not give in. She shouted, her voice breaking the oppressive silence. Each word echoed, reverberating through the darkness, striking at the heart of her despair. With each step toward the emerging light, she recalled the warmth of her children's laughter, the innocent joy that had once filled their home. She climbed against the tide of shadows, stubborn tears trailing down her cheeks. Ethan. Lily. The names rolled off her tongue like a prayer, each repetition fortifying her will. Suddenly, the ethereal glow blazed brighter, illuminating the shadows that had threatened to swallow her whole. The grotesque figure, the embodiment of despair, writhed in frustration, its chilling laughter faltering. You can't escape this, Jenna. You know the truth. No, she breathed, stepping closer to the light. The truth is that I will fight for my kids, for our love. You have no power here. The shadows recoiled as if stung, swirling chaotically, fearful of the light she now exuded. With every breath, Jenna amplified her resolve, reaching for their familiar warmth, desperate to reclaim what the shadows sought to take. "Mommy!" The voices of her children echoed, now clearer than ever through the veil of darkness. Jenna surged forward, gripping onto the fading flickers of their essence. "I'm coming. Hold on." The air shimmered as she pushed against the dark tide, each step forward cutting against the desperate whispers that clawed at her mind. "You belong with us forever," the figure whispered, its voice dripping with mockery. "You can't resist the joy we offer." But Jenna's heart thrummed with fierce defiance. "You are imposters. Joy is laughter, love, and memories. Not this darkness." Her resolve surged, creating a storm of light that pushed back against the shadows. For a fleeting moment, she felt the overwhelming urge to succumb, to disappear into the bittersweet falsehood of eternal bliss, but she steeled herself instead. "Let them go!" she roared, the sound reverberating with a power she never knew she had. The very fabric of the shadowy landscape started to fracture, breaking apart in luminous veins that spread like wildfire. It was a chaotic symphony of light battling darkness, each note a commitment to her children's freedom. In a climactic surge, Jenna felt the weight of the shadows lift, their grip released. "Ethan! Lily!" She cried one last time, and in that moment of vulnerability, she could almost see them. Their small figures emerged from the encroaching darkness, confused yet hopeful, somehow tethered by her love. "Mommy!" they shouted, voices blending like a beautiful melody clear from the chaos. Closer and closer, they came, the shadows writhing in a desperate frenzy as their cries reached out to her. Synchronization surrounded them. The love they shared became a protective barrier as Jenna shattered the remnants of twilight, breaking free from the final tendrils of despair. Pure light enveloped them, embracing her and her children as one, uniting them in that fragile yet unbreakable bond. As the glow intensified, the monstrous figure let out a bone-chilling scream. The walls of darkness melted away, retreating like fog under a rising sun. Jenna wrapped her arms around Ethan and Lily, their warmth flooding back into her soul, knitting together the tangible reality of family. No shadows remained, they had triumphed over the dark abyss that had threatened to consume them. "I was so scared," Ethan whimpered, tears shimmering in his eyes as he pressed into her side, while Lily wrapped her tiny fingers around her mother's. "I wanted to play with them just for a little while." "I know, sweetheart," Jenna whispered, the knot in her chest loosening. "But we've faced the darkness, and now nothing can take us away from one another." They emerged into a soft light, the warmth of the sun washing over them, rejuvenating their spirits. The brightness filled her with an overwhelming sense of relief. And she finally felt the bond unheard of from the suffocating grip of the shadows. As they stood together, Jenna glanced back at the ghostly remnants of the darkness they had just escaped. There was a fading whisper, a resonant echo of distant laughter lingering in the air. But it subsided, dwindling as the reality of their love formed an unbreakable wall. "Never again," Jenna vowed, her voice steady. "We're free now. Together." And with that, the final strands of darkness unraveled into nothingness, leaving them bathed in the light of a freshly renewed day. The gripping horrors of the night slid away, casting long shadows behind as they took their first step forward into a brighter world filled with laughter, love, and endless possibilities. The end. You need to subscribe now for more exclusive stories like this. This is the moment to show your support. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Let's hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion.